Hello and welcome to Spotlight on S24 television, where we engage influential voices shaping policy, governance, development, and the future of Nigeria. Today, our guest is Dr. Victor Kwambuge. He's a public administrator, human resource expert, development consultant, trainer, and public affairs analyst whose career spans humanitarian organizations, international development agencies, public service, and legislative governance. From working with conflict-affected communities in Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo to facilitating leadership and organizational development trainings across Africa, Dr. Kwambuge has built a reputation around human capital development, institutional effectiveness, and public sector reform. But beyond the impressive credentials, important questions remain. What lessons can Nigeria learn from decades of development intervention? Why do many public institutions still struggle despite significant investment in capacity building? And can leadership training truly transform governance outcome? Dr. Kwambuge, welcome to Spotlight On.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. Good to see you here.
Thank you.
So, you spent years working with international NGOs and organizations. Billions of dollars have entered Nigeria through humanitarian and development programs. But we still have regions like Adamawa, Borno, Yobe. They remain one of the poorest regions in the country. So should Nigeria conclude that the aid industry has largely failed?
Okay, thank you very much for having me into your program this afternoon. You are right. Humanitarian interventions has been on in Nigeria for quite a long period of time now. More visibly, the influx of NGOs, both international and local, was actually skyrocketed when the activities of the Boko Haram insurgents became very prevalent in the northeastern part of the country. So then we saw the influx of two kinds of organizations. One, the humanitarian organization, and two, the developmental organizations. So the humanitarian organizations have been doing a lot of intervention programs ranging from poverty reduction, conflict management, WASH, that is water, sanitation and hygiene, child protection, protection itself, etc., etc. So these interventions has been on, particularly in the northeastern part of the country. In terms of the impact, not much has been recorded because the approach has always been to intervene during emergencies. And when somebody is coming just to intervene on emergency, the focus is mostly to just address an immediate need. Once that need is addressed, the approach may be cosmetic in the sense that just to provide relief, just to make sure that it cushions the effect of the pain at that moment, but not necessarily looking at the longer vision or the sustainability of what they are implementing. So after the activities of the insurgents have actually went down to some extent at some point, the international organizations withdrawing from the country at some point, and some new were actually coming in. What is happening now in 2026 is that there is a lot of donor fatigue. Donor fatigue in the sense that a lot of donors are complaining that we have been sending you money since 2009, 2010, this is 2026. What happened that the problem is not subsiding? Some organizations are changing their approach from being humanitarian in nature to becoming developmental in nature. We have seen instances where some humanitarian organizations are already pulling out of the country. There is what they call localization policy. Localization in the sense that the mandate is to build the competency and the capacity of local organizations so that they can start doing exactly what the international organizations are doing.
Okay.
This is very important for one reason. One reason in the sense that when you build the capacity of the local organizations to start doing that, you reduce the cost and the burden on the shoulders of the donor, because instead of always bringing in expatriates from US, from UK, from Canada, from all parts of the country, build the capacity of the people you have in the country so that they can, number one, reduce cost, and number two, build the capacity of local people around.
So away from a humanitarian, you also work in the National Assembly. So let me ask you directly, why is public trust in the National Assembly so low? Because many Nigerians believe lawmakers now spend more time discussing politics than solve problems, which should not be their priority in the first place.
Well, I don't speak for the National Assembly, but at the same time, the problem you highlighted is actually a generic problem with Nigeria. Seems to be a problem of distrust between the populace and the government. Ordinarily, even when there is no problem, people do not like to trust the institutions of government, starting from the legislature, the executive, and even the judiciary. In many cases, before a policy will even be enacted, people will form an impression about it. So before the National Assembly will even enact any law, before the National Assembly will think about enacting any bill, whereas once that rumor is out there, people will form an impression about it. And that is because, like I said, there is that mistrust between the people and the government. And one of the reasons why you have this kind of mistrust is because of, one, past experiences. So many policies that were enacted were not actually conceived with the interest of the populace in mind, instead to serve the interest of the upper class, that is the bourgeois. So because of this, the National Assembly, particularly the 10th Senate, the 10th Assembly, have not actually enjoyed a lot of public will, because in many cases, before any kind of legislation, look at what happened during the electoral law, the electoral bill. Many people were actually suspicious. Oh, they want to do this because they want to help themselves to do this and that. And if you look at the content, even these tax reforms that was even introduced, look at a lot of misinformation that went around. And like I said, the main reason is because the mistrust, the disconnect between the people and the government.
I know you said you're not speaking for the lawmakers, but you know the bar of the lawmakers are high. They are not in the reality of the people, where people are facing poverty, unemployment. Do you think they really even understand what people are going through? Now,
this is also another very serious problem that we have, particularly in our polity. How do we even recruit some of the lawmakers that we have in the National Assembly or in the state houses of assembly? The recruitment system, look at what is happening with the party primaries. Look at how these people are even becoming lawmakers in the first place. So when you ask whether they even have an understanding of the real pain, of the real problem that we have in the country, I doubt much. I doubt much because under normal circumstances, are we even supposed to be focused on politicking? Today is 4th of June, 2026. We have a lot of pupils in the bush. We have teachers, there are a lot of protests here and there. But this focus in many parts of the country seems to be who picks this ticket, who succeeds this person, who becomes a governor, who becomes senator, or who becomes president. So if we are really a country of good conscience, under normal circumstances, everything is supposed to be on standstill until these children are rescued, until the insecurity problem that we have in the country improves for the better.
That brings me to my next question. We've been having, even after this kidnapping, we've been having politicians moving from one party to another just to pursue their own interests. Nigerians have spent trillions of naira on insecurity, but we kept seeing this recurring situation. Where do you think the problem is?
The problem is actually from insincerity in the part of the policymakers and even in the part of the implementers. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, Senator Adams Oshomole actually raised a very important point on plenary, where he tried to recommend an audit in the security architecture that we have in the country. That was turned down. And when I say insincerity, I'm talking about the fact that a lot of appropriations goes into the security system in this country. A lot of monies in terms of procurement of arms, in terms of trainings, in terms of this, in terms of that. But the result that we see is mostly very, very, very minimal. And in many cases, you find situations whereby instead of us facing the problem headlong, we prefer to be playing to the gallery. Playing to the gallery in the sense that we prefer to go into media rhetoric, oh, there is an improvement here and there, and what. But can you really go to the street of Ogbomosho? Can you go to the street of Kauranamoda? Can you go to the street of Benishek in Maiduguri, in Borno State, and talk to them about an improvement in the security system, where an ordinary person, an ordinary citizen is actually sleeping out of their houses? Somebody must have forgotten when last they even slept in their houses. Go to Askira Uba and go and see what is happening. So when you see a lot of media campaign, when you see a lot of millions invested in media campaigns just to make sure that they play a cosmetic approach to the issue, to just make sure that they paint the situation to become more beautiful than it is on ab initio, then you know that there is a very serious problem. So when you ask me where the problem is, like I said, insincerity. We are not sincere about tackling this problem of insecurity headlong. a few weeks ago, I saw a lot of publications that, oh, the federal government have identified some sponsors of these people. Where are they today? Yesterday, I saw over the news, oh, some 4 individuals were sentenced to death by hanging.
Yes.
And you do this, and but
is it even certain that they were actually going to be executed?
Exactly. On another hand, you are also talking about rehabilitation. You are talking about how to reintegrate them back to the society. So we have to be very clear about what we want to do. How do we intend to fight terrorism in Nigeria? How do we intend to fight this insurgency? Are we going to do this, what they call non-kinetic approach of going always to negotiate and say, oh, you guys need to drop your arms, just like what Eradua did with the Niger Delta militants? Or you intend to actually fight them toe-to-toe to make sure that you bring the situation to an end? We need to have a stand. At the moment, we don't stand in one place. We are on the fence. In one breath, we say we are fighting them. On another breath, we say we are rehabilitating and integrating them.
So my previous questions come from, from humanitarian, we move into security, and we move from National Assembly to insecurity. This is because of the occasion on ground. It's supposed to be a moment of celebration for us, for what has been fought for in the past. But do you think Nigerians deserve to even celebrate June 12th in the first place? Or we are just supposed to sit and reflect?
I think differently when we talk about June 12th. You use the word celebration. I wonder what we are supposed to celebrate. To celebrate the fact that we had a free and fair election annulled, or for the fact that we had an election where the issue of ethno-religious part of our politics exalted at some point, then at some point some people said it was not an issue? Or are we celebrating the fact that we are trying to appease a particular part of the country today with saying that, oh, we cheated the southwestern part of the country, Abiola is there, oh, in 1999 we brought a certain Olusegun Obasanjo so that he will appease the emotions of the people in the southwest. So when you use the word celebration, I think you are being very magnanimous with your word. The right word actually should be that it should be a moment for reflection. Reflection to ask ourselves 3 fundamental questions. Number 1, how do we want to play this political game that we find ourselves? From the First Republic political period, you see that during the regime of the administration of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, just 6 years down the line, he was assassinated together with his lieutenant, Amadou Bello, and the likes. 6 months later, again, there was a counter coup. And all of these coups have one coloration: ethnic and religion. So where some people feel that, okay, it is not our turn, or some people will say it's our turn, and 60-something years down the line, we are still talking about this turn-by-turn kind of politics. Why do we seem to find the embers of June 12 today? It is because a certain man won the election, and they said he's from southwestern part of the country. Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida annulled that election, and General Sani Abacha became head of state. He died in office. Abdulsalam Abubakar succeeded him, then Obasanjo came in. Today we are still talking about turn-by-turn kind of politics. Ahmed Bola Tinubu came in with the slogan of Emilokon, saying it is my turn, because he feels that there is a loan that the political system is actually owing his people. So it is a moment for reflection. We need to think, Zainab, where are we and where do we want to go from here?
Yes, I agree with you that it is a moment of reflection, but I think celebration came from the fact that we are embracing democracy at this moment. So it boils down to my next question, that after 33 years of this event, do you think we're moving forward, or we're still politically trapped?
Politically trapped. I cannot say we are trapped. Of course, there is a slight movement, but there is a dance in my place. There is this very interesting ethnic group that calls the Boate ethnic group in Adamawa State. There is a way they dance: 1 step forward, 2 steps backward. I think this is a very good analogy of how our democracy is going. 1 step forward in the sense that in so many aspects, there are few reforms that we can always talk about. How did they conduct that election in 1992-93? There is something they call option A4. Today, the primary elections came with that resemblance, because they said they are doing direct primaries, whereby people have to go queue up behind a candidate and what have you. So it simply tells me that They feel that the elections that was conducted 33 years ago is actually the better way that we can conduct this democracy in 2026. And to some extent, we are beginning to come to terms with realities and having that retrospective feeling that, okay, let us go back to what we did in 1992-93, how we got it right, to the extent that the INEC chairman, Humphrey Nwosu, and even the subsequent political actors are saying that that election was adjudged as the most free and fairest election ever conducted on the shores of this country. So today we are going back to it, but in terms of actual practice of politics, we are going 2 steps backward. 2 steps backward, like I gave you an earlier example. Look at the primary elections that were conducted across all political parties. I'm not just being specific about one party now.
Yes.
The APC, the ADC, the PDP, the NDC, etc. There are a lot of political complaints from different candidates, and when you interrogate those complaints, and you will see that there are a lot of merit. There are individuals in this country that have elevated themselves to become demigod. There are individuals that have assumed that they are bigger than a lot of institutions. And these individuals, any political party they find themselves, they make sure that they stamp their foot to make sure that they make a mess of the whole democratic process that we have in the country. So if we are talking about...
Which individuals are we talking about?
You want me
what political party are we talking about?
I said it's cut across all political parties. Bring a member of the APC on your show, you will get the same complaint. Bring another person from ADC, bring another person from PDP, from NDC. It's almost, so it is, I think it is gradually becoming part of our political culture to assume that politics must be characterized by prebendalism, politics must be characterized by desperation, politics must be characterized by despotism, whereby one individual will feel that if it's either I get it or everybody loses it. And that is a very dangerous trend that
with all of the things you've mentioned, for people who have not, we did not experience, you know, the June 12th incident, and how do you even convince them that democracy is actually worth fighting for? Now,
that is a very interesting point that you made. I gave an analogy, I think, some days back. I said the 2027 election is going to come with very interesting realities. Very interesting realities because there will be a new set of voters in the polling units. A child that was born in 2009 will be eligible to vote by next year because that child would have been 18 years old. A child born 2009, 2008, do they know anything about June 12th?
No.
Do they know anything about military junta in Nigeria? Tell them about Ibrahim Babangida, they will think you are giving them the story of a movie. Tell them about what happened during the Metasine riot. Tell them about what happened during the First Republic. All those will sound like tales by moonlight in their ears. What they will know or what they will see are the current realities they read on social media, are the realities they are seeing everywhere. So they don't know what we know. They don't know, they don't have the kind of history that we have. They don't know who did what, when, and how at a particular point in time. Who is MK Abiola, who is Bashir Tofa, who is this, who is that. So the only thing that is going to guide their thinking and even their political decision to go into the 2027 election are the realities they find on social media. And that is very dangerous. Dangerous because under normal circumstances, elections are supposed to be guided by programs, by manifesto, by plans, by this. How did PDP come into being? How the APC, they say, is an amalgamation of so many political parties. They don't know all of these things. And names of individuals will not appear on the ballot. Instead, it is the names of political parties, the logo of political parties that will appear on this ballot. So, and this set of people that I mentioned, they will constitute a significant block of our voting population.
For people who have experienced military rule now, what do you tell them? That democracy is actually worth continuing?
That is a very serious agenda for debate, particularly in a political science class. When we were in school, I think there is this very interesting debate of, the best form of military government is better than, there is a way they craft it, was civilian regime. But again, depending on the side of the fence that you prefer to sit, if you want to speak for the military government, I'm telling you, Zainab, a vast majority of the infrastructural development we find in the country were recorded during the military government. It wasn't during the civilian government. A vast majority of the policies that are still working, talk about the NYSC programs, talk about this, most of these policies were enacted during the military regimes. So what contribution did the civilian regime actually bring into the country? Like I said, this is a very huge topic.
Are you saying the military regime stands?
No, that is why I said it depends on the side of the fence that you sit. But if you sit for the military government, I'm telling you, I can spend the next 2 hours talking to you about the merits of the military government. They have done an excellent job. But at the same time, if you want to criticize them, they were the people that were responsible for the institutionalization of corruption in the country. Look at what happened during the regime of Ibrahim Babangida. Look at the Abacha loot that in 2026, they are still discovering a lot of loot in streets and etc. On the flip side, when you look at the damage done by the democratic guys again, you will also see that we were not better off practicing democracy today. Number one, the kind of democracy we are practicing is too expensive. Too expensive for a fragile economy like Nigeria. Do we really have the capacity to operate a bicameral legislature?
Is that why we are failing?
Well, you have run the conclusion.
That was the question.
Okay, I don't know whether that is why we are failing, but like I said, the kind of democracy we are practicing is too expensive. Look at the size of the Federal Executive Council. Look at the numbers of ministers we have. Every state have to produce a minister. In fact, the current administration even overshot the numbers of ministers that we have from 36 to 40-something or even 50-something. As at the last count, I don't know. Do we really need the kind of sirens, the kind of bogus budgets, the kind of, So some people will tell you that in a democratic regime like this, we are operating a very, very expensive system. In fact, one of my teachers told me, I don't know how true is that our democracy is even more expensive than that of the United States of America.
Wow.
So if that is the case, I don't think this democratic practice is
for
helping
a developing country.
Yes.
Chief FKO Abiola actually fought for democracy. If you return today, what aspects of the Nigerian democracy would you think will disappoint him most?
Well, number one is the struggle, the perennial struggle for electoral reforms that we have in the country. There is this long struggle. We have been agitating, clamoring, crying, saying that, we need to reform our electoral system. This electoral system is not working. So, to some extent, what I read, because in that 92, 93 that you're talking about, I was too young to even know what was happening. But from what I read, it seems that the NEC, as they call them, National Electoral Commission, under the leadership of Professor Humphrey Nwosu, seems to have a better clarity about how to conduct elections than what we are having currently. Today in 2026, few months, I think less than 7 months to general election, there is a huge debate about the legality or otherwise of the current INEC chairman. There is a huge debate about the morality, whether it is morally right for the current INEC chairman, Professor Omepitan, to be the one to conduct the next general election. So I think one of the things that would disappoint the late MKO Abiola is for the fact that we are still struggling to get it right with our electoral system. There is an endless agitation and clamors for electoral reforms, and that is the main reason why we seem to be dancing 1 step forward and 2 steps backward.
One of our problems in Nigeria is leadership. You've mentioned that before. I'm just, quoting. So let's now move to personal. Let's go to the grassroots. You've trained leaders across Africa. Let me ask you something quite uncomfortable. Why do leaders training really translate into leadership results?
That is because, looking at it from the angle of our political leadership, because the kind of leadership training I conduct is mostly for organizational leadership. But here I see that we are focusing more on political leadership. It is unfortunate in Nigeria, we have not been very lucky to have a leader that is really well prepared for leadership. Take this comparative analysis. Barack Obama, before he became the president of the United States, he wrote 2 books, even while he was young. 2 books, Audacity of Hope, Dreams from Our Forefathers. If you read the content of those books, he was outlining the plans and the agenda that he has for the presidency of the United States when he eventually became president. In fact, at the time he wrote those books, many of his colleagues were laughing at him, that, you black man like you, this and that. And if you look at also other leaders like John F. Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, and the rest of those American great leaders, they actually had a blueprint of what they intend to have. Historically speaking, history recorded that Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was not prepared to become the prime minister of the country. In fact, the colonial masters wanted Abubakar Tafawa Balewa to become the prime minister. Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was not comfortable to go to Lagos. He preferred to be in Kaduna State. And that is the reason why the political class nominated Abubakar Tafawa Balewa when he was contesting to represent Bauchi in the parliament. And that was how he became minister. In the Second Republic in 1979, when we had an opportunity to have another political experiment, Shehu Shagari had already printed his posters, both formed to represent Sokoto West or Sokoto North in the Nigerian Senate during the Second Republic. Before somehow there was a lot of political consensus, as they call it today, and he was nominated to become the president of Nigeria. Second Republic, again, we never had. In that defunct Third Republic, when we had MKO Abiola, that was the time that we were supposed to have a leader that was actually prepared. He campaigned, canvassed for votes all over the country, but unfortunately, he never saw the light of the day.
Exactly. The reason why I'm asking you about leadership is because we've talked a lot about the aftermath of the June 12. What are those problems we are facing? And one of the solutions we would have mentioned is, enlighten the young people. How do we get solution? It's by educating the young people. But we've had a lot of leadership training, and it's not accounting to, So where do we go from here? This happens to be my last question before we move to our last segment. What do you think is the actual solution?
We should have leaders that are prepared for leadership. The sequence I was actually moving with you is actually one of the key problems that we have. We should have leaders that are prepared. 2027 is coming with a golden
Don't you
opportunity.
think we have leaders that are prepared, but their priority actually differs?
No, I doubt. I doubt if we really.
So what do you think those leaders are doing there?
Doing where? In Asoro?
Yes.
Of course, you can see what they are doing. You can see.
What do you call that if you say they are not prepared for leadership? So what do we term that?
Some people said they are ruling. And I tend to agree with that description. Instead of calling them leaders, I prefer to call them rulers. So they are actually ruling in the sense that the policies are completely disconnected from the realities that you find on ground. For instance, what is the approach of the current administration for poverty reduction? Poverty is the biggest issue currently in Nigeria. Most of these problems that you see, the insecurity, the banditry, the this, the that you are mentioning, it stems from the problem of poverty. At some point during Buhari's regime, we were regarded as the poverty capital of the world. What is the current government doing? Or what is even what did the previous government do to ensure that poverty was eradicated? You made mention of military government. During military regimes, we had a lot of programs that tried to address the problem of poverty. NAPEP, for example, National Poverty Eradication Program, which actually culminated during Obasanjo's first regime. The Structural Adjustment Program, the DFRI by Ibrahim Babangida, Directorate for Food, Roads and Rural Infrastructure, Operation Feed the Nation. All of these programs were actually targeted towards poverty.
So, but if you don't mention that you are for military regime, maybe I should help you mention that you are for military regime.
That is why I said it depends on which side of the fence you stand.
Okay, doctor, we should agree that you're on the military regime, right?
No, I am a Democrat. I like but I am a strong advocate that we really need to change our priorities.
Let's quickly move to our last segment before rounding up. This is where you're given the opportunity to just mention one word. It's to ease the tension after all of our conversation. So I'm going to ask you questions, then you just pick one word. You have no opportunity to do further explanation.
To do analysis.
Yeah. Okay. So foreign aid or local solutions?
Local solutions. You said I should not explain. Okay.
But you're getting foreign aid.
Yeah, but to what extent is the foreign aid helping us?
Okay, local solution. Yeah. National Assembly or local government?
National Assembly, but with a lot of reforms.
National Assembly.
National Assembly.
June 12 fulfilled or unfinished?
Unfinished.
Competence or character?
Character.
Is NGO helping or dependency?
Dependency.
Security emergency, yes or no?
Yes.
Has democracy improved the average Nigerian's life? Yes or no?
Yes.
Should Nigerians be satisfied with the state of the country today? Yes or no?
No.
You just mentioned that democracy has improved.
Yeah, when you talk about improvement.
Okay, thank you. Finish this sentence. 33 years after June 12, Nigeria is still struggling because
we are not really sincere about the direction of where we are going democratically.
Thank you so much, Doctor. You know, as Nigeria reflects on its democratic journey and developmental aspiration, one question remains: can leadership, governance, and human capital development finally align to deliver the progress Nigerians have long demanded? This has been Spotlight on S24 television. My name is Zainab Ibrahim. Goodbye for now.